40 years ago, even 20 years ago, the fact that she was a female would have immediately like knocked her out of certain jobs and certain things, and now she can do anything she wants. I mean, because I think we're a lot more open to stuff like that, which I think is fantastic. I think we've come a long way in that capacity.
Absolutely. So Madeline, I mean, hopefully I'm talking to like a 23-year-old Madeline at this point when you're listening back to this, and just know that I love you, that these are for you, and that, you know, I want you to use these tools and these ingredients of success that we talk about, and know that the only limits that you have are the ones that you believe in.
Yeah.
And conquer. I mean, go out and conquer and make it happen, and know that your father loves you, and that, see, I'm about to get teary-eyed. So I'm going to just know that I love you, baby, and this is all part of the reason I do this. One of the strongest reasons I do this is for you.
Yeah, and I agree. And I mean, obviously you know that my whole thing is leaving a legacy for Gus and Penny, and I feel the same way. Like, I mean, it's, to me, I want them to, 20 years from now, pick up a CD that I have burned all these on and be like, what the heck is this thing, you know, whatever. But to be able to listen to it, and then, like you said, I like this idea, is having Gus and Penny, you know, when they're having children of their own, you know, however long that is, Penny hopefully like 50 or 60 years down the line, but like having this sitting there so that they can pass it off to their children. They can say, this is what your grandfather, and then your great-great-grandfather, you know, great-great-great-grandfather, because several years ago, I was really into, you know, I downloaded Ancestry.com, and I was going through and kind of trying to find who my family was. I think that's fascinating to see where we've come from to where I am now. And this idea of just having there, you can download that, makes it so much easier to be like, oh, so this is who great-great-grandpa Josh was.
Yeah.
As opposed to me, where it was like I got to a point where I hit a wall, and I was like, I can't go back any further unless I go to Ireland to look this up, or if I go, you know, wherever, to England to look up in the records, which I want to do at some point, but you know, that takes a little bit of time and money to go do that. I can't just drop everything and go. But that, I mean, that's something that I would love to have for them, so they can figure out who I am.
Yeah. Do you keep a journal?
I don't really. I mean, I tried, and it's mostly just me rambling. So I mostly just use my writing as my outlet. So.
Yeah. I do. I'm not. I want to say I'm not consistent with it, but it's just bits and pieces of life that'll come in, and I'll write. And I was more consistent at first when I started writing it, because I wanted to get it all in there. And this was me when I was growing up, and this was, you know. But I definitely do have one, and that's something too. Like now, since my daughter's been born, I always start the journal now. You know, obviously it was before she was born when I started it, but now all my entries say "Dear Madeline." You know, and then I'll write the entry to her. You know, so I think of this show as also like as an addition, to my journal.
Right.
You know, so she can actually, it's audio. She can hear me talking, and she can hear the things that I'm saying, and also have something in the written word as well.
Which is fantastic. And one thing, actually, I do the exact opposite, because I'm using the written word, you know, to write stories and whatever, and I want that to be my legacy. But this actually I think it's like 15 years ago, I think it was 2000, 2001, that my old roommate and I started this. We were sitting around one night doing the coffee and cigarettes, just kind of BSing and talking, and one question led to another, and we were like, you know, what would be the soundtrack of your life? Like, what would be the one song that would sum up your life? And we were like, oh, you know, one song is hard to do, so let's do top 5. And then we were like, yeah, even top 5, because we were in our 20s at that point. We're like, even top 5 is hard to do. And it stemmed to, all of a sudden, we were sitting there, we go, you know what? Let's make a mix. Let's make a life mix, is what we called it. And it's the soundtrack to, at that point, it was from birth to the age that we were. And we did a whole soundtrack for, if our life was a movie, what would the soundtrack be? And we named it, and we did everything. My life soundtrack was called Lucky Days in Hell. And every year in March, I do another one. I go back through the previous year, I sit down one night, and I think about, you know, what happened since this time last year. And I go through and I map it out as though it's a movie. I've got the whole film reel going in my head, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, this song would be perfect here, and this song sums up this, and this song sums up that. So I've literally got 15 years worth of soundtracks. They're 20 songs apiece, and each of them have a different title. There's like Lucky Days in Hell, I got Lucky Days in Fast Forward, and all this stuff. And that's something that I want to be able to give to my son and daughter, because, for instance, like when they were born, there's songs on there that have to, this is your song from when you were born. When my son was little, I never really got into like singing nursery rhymes to him, whatever. So I would just sing songs to him. And one of the songs that I, for some reason, just popped into my head one day was a song called Cotton Fields by Creedence Clearwater Revival. And it's just a very simple song, and I just started singing that to him one night when we were bouncing, and he fell asleep. And that became his song. Every time I sang it to him, he would fall asleep. And my daughter was born, another Creedence Clearwater song popped into my head again. I don't know why both of my kids have Creedence songs, but Proud Mary was the song that I was singing, that version, to her. And I would sing that to her every night, and that would put her to sleep. So both like two separate soundtracks. There's a Creedence song on each soundtrack that is designated for my kids' song. So, but that's something I want to be able to pass off to them.
Yeah, and you actually, it's funny too, because you know how we talked about like sometimes conversations just start off of like none of this is anything that I had.
I know, right? Me neither, right?
And now we're moving into a good direction. I like this. One of the things I've done every day since my daughter's been born, unless like a couple times where and I think my wife's taken over, is like if I've been on a business trip or something like that, but taking a old time prayer and changing it just slightly. And we've said this. I mean, she can say it too now,
right?
And again, she doesn't know what the words mean. But she says it, and it's nice to hear her say it, But it's again, this is to my daughter, and we've said this every day of her life. So she goes to bed, and we say. And right now is pretty much her bedtime, so hopefully she's still listening, and maybe I can kind of say a prayer with her right now. But it goes, "Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. Please forgive me when I sin. I love Jesus." And here's the last part. "And I was born to win." So
I like that, yeah.
I always follow up with, "I was born to win."
Right.
So again, planting those seeds.
Yeah.
Every day of her life, we've said that prayer to her,
Right.
And now there's going to be a time when her prayers are going to change and be more grown up, but it's planting those seeds of, "I was born to win." You
right.
know? And I like that because it's just I'm feeding her so much of the stuff that I know and the stuff that I know that have helped me, affirmations that have helped me. I used to get done running. You remember how I talked about how I changed my life?
Yeah.
And I was in the machine shop,
Yep.
and one of the things I did, this is literally true, man. When I knew things were happening and I knew things were changing, I would get done running. At the time back then, I'd get off of the machine shop and then I'd go home and go running.
Yeah.
I'd get back from running and I would literally take a piece of paper out of my pocket and it had all these affirmations on it. And it was long. So as I was cooling down and walking back to the house, it would be, and I might still have, I may have put it in my journal. I hope I did. I really hope I did. Because I feel like it was just changing my brain. You change who you are by changing what you put into your mind. So It would say things like you are going to earn a 6-figure income. You are going to and a lot of it was like factual. Like I was, even though it wasn't there yet, I will weigh this because remember I was 45 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
So it would say I weigh, and what the desired weight would be, and it would all these things I knew were coming, and all these. So I would just say them over and over, and I'd read them with confidence every day when I got done running because I knew that's when I was most pumped up.
Right.
The endorphins were running through my body. I was excited. I was motivated, and I just knew change was coming, man. And then it's so funny how, again, I didn't get lucky, but I would say just about, except for, in fact, everything on my list came true except for one thing so far, and I'm still working on it. And I'm hoping it's going to come true.
Right.
It's the big one.
Yeah.
But every one of them they've manifested themselves into my life, So I had a vision of my beautiful wife, and I had a vision of the home and the house and the this and the that and the income, and I'd be working in an office building, and I'd be a successful, in sales, and all of it came true, man. And not luck.
Yeah.
I was designing my life. I was changing my thought process.
Right, the blueprint.
Changing my there you go. I had how can you. How can you hit a target if you don't even have one?
No, right.
Right?
And it's funny you say that because I posted on Facebook, to kind of pump up the show tonight. I had a quote that I loved from Bob Dylan, and sorry, hold on one second. Yeah, right. Exactly. The quote is, "A man is a success when he gets up in the morning and gets to bed at night, and in between does what he wants to.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. And I do feel, and actually this brings me to a subject that I was going to bring up, is that I kind of feel like our society has strayed away from that, as a whole, our society, because you think about, again, going back even when I was a kid, so maybe 20, 30 years, something like that, there were businesses. Businesses were closed on Sundays. Businesses were closed on holidays. Businesses closed after 5 o'clock, with the exception of a few here and there. But now it's the norm for businesses to be open 24 hours, to be open on Christmas and Easter, and to be open. Obviously, every business is open on Sunday unless it's independently run. And it started making me think, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, especially. But we have to go to work. We have to work in order to provide for our families and to provide for ourselves as well. But I spend more time with my office mates than I do with my family. If you really think about it, I mean, it's and that it's kind of depressing, because I mean, obviously, I want to make sure that my family is provided for, and that's why I go to work. But it is one of those where it's kind of like, I can't say anything about it, but there is big things coming in my life that I'm working towards right now, excuse me, that would change this a little bit, because I go into work and I'm not doing what I love. I mean, it's not something that I love to do, but I'm doing it, and I'm doing it well, because that's how I work. But at the end of the day, I kind of come home and I'm like, was that worth it? That 8 hours or 9 hours that I just put in, when I could have been running around with my kids in the backyard or whatever. Right. And I'm sure you feel the same way, to a point. So, but it's just, it's the societal norm now is to be apart from your family for X amount of hours. And I don't think that we don't have that family togetherness anymore. I think we need to bring that back, personally.
Yeah, the family structure. Look, again, I talked about it last week, where some feminists might step in, and so I will add this little disclaimer that I support women empowering themselves.
And women's
100%.
rights, yeah.
Absolutely. Women can do just about everything a man can do, and the reason I say just about everything, there's certain biological things that men just have differently.
Can't pee standing up.
There you go. Well, you can.
You can, I
suppose.
might make a mess,
but you can. But, I mean, that's kind of where the joke was with me. Like, I was making a little bit of a joke. But, I think that a woman can do anything that a man can do. I really do, And, but the family structure, the design of how things were in the 50s, let's say, for example.
Right.
Where the man would go to work. And I'm not saying, again, I always feel like that's what I hate about society now. Right. You just always have to sit there and apologize. You have to make sure everybody understands the PC wimps. They drive me insane. But I think the average person knows what I'm saying, and I'm not saying anything offensive. So if you're offended by this, go get a hobby. Right? I mean, seriously. So I'm just speaking like things were a lot different. Look at the crime rates now in society. I just think a lot of it is like the family structure has been torn apart. You can't basically, for the most part, you can't have where the man goes to work and the wife stays at home, with the children. And I'm not saying that's the wife's place, is to stay at home. So again, don't get offended. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the family structure has been torn apart.
It has.
There is a lot of times I get home and my daughter's already in bed. And I don't get to see her all day. Or if I do get to see her, there are a couple days during the week, because of my work schedule, I see her for probably a total of 5 minutes during that day. Yeah. Breaks my heart, man.
No, I agree. And it's funny you actually say that, because obviously I see you, I know you, I've known you for a while, and I know you're a good father, and on your days off, you're out doing stuff with Madeline, and you and your whole family, you guys are all out together and hanging out. And you're together with them. And that's how I feel, I try to be with my family when I'm off, because I want to be there with them. But it's funny, too, because on Facebook, and I notice this a lot, you'll be scrolling through, your feed, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I've got a couple friends that they've got pictures, professionally done photos, where it's the husband, the wife, and the kid, or kids, depending on who it is, out in like a forest preserve, and they're like holding hands, and they've got the kid up on the shoulder, and they're like running, and they all are smiling, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, these photos are not real. This is creating the illusion that you're a family person. And I get it, some people have to work, but some of these guys, one guy gets up in the morning and he does kind of what he wants, and then he goes and, like, if the kids are around, he's like, oh, I got to watch a football game. So he's kind of pushing the kids off to the side to watch football. And he's pushing the kid off to the side to do this or that or the other thing.